After 15 years of running our family restaurant for barely minimum wage, my parents announced they were giving it to my younger brother who worked there for 6 months because he has business school connections. And when I stopped covering every shift and emergency, they called panicking about health inspections, and I said let Trevor handle it since he is the chosen one, and within 3 weeks they lost their liquor license and begged me to come back. The folder sat on the kitchen counter of my childhood home. Heavy cream-colored paper with gold lettering that spelled out succession planning documents. My mother stood by the stove making her famous chicken soup even though it was 70 degrees outside. My father sat at the head of the table where he had presided over family dinners for 40 years. Trevor, my younger brother, leaned against the counter looking uncomfortable but trying to hide it with a casual smile. I stood in the doorway still wearing my chef's coat from the lunch shift. Flour dusted my sleeves and my feet ached from 12 straight hours on the line. The restaurant, my family's restaurant, had been my entire adult life since I was 19 years old. My mother turned from the stove and said we wanted to talk to me about the future of Castellanos. She said they were not getting any younger and it was time to make plans for succession. I nodded slowly. This was a conversation we should have had years ago. I had been running the restaurant's day-to-day operations since I was 25. I knew every supplier, every regular customer, every quirk of the ancient oven that required specific coaxing to maintain even heat. My father cleared his throat and said they had been thinking very carefully about this decision. He said the restaurant needed fresh vision to stay competitive. New ideas to attract younger customers. Modern business strategies. Trevor is taking over as owner and operator when we retire next year, my father announced. He will be the face of Castellanos moving forward. The words hung in the air like smoke. I stared at my younger brother. Trevor, who had worked at the restaurant for exactly 6 months. Trevor, who had spent the last 8 years getting an MBA and working for a consulting firm in Boston. Trevor, who could not tell the difference between basil and oregano. My mother said I would still be head chef, of course. She said my position was secure and I was the heart of the kitchen. She said Trevor would handle the business side while I continued doing what I did best. I asked why Trevor and not me. The question came out calmer than I felt. My father said Trevor had the business education and the professional network to take Castellanos to the next level. He said I was brilliant in the kitchen, but running a restaurant required skills beyond cooking. Trevor spoke up then. His voice had that practiced empathy he had learned in business school. He said he hoped I understood this was about what was best for the family legacy. He said he valued my culinary expertise and we would make a great team. I looked at my mother, who was stirring her soup with intense concentration. At my father, who could not quite meet my eyes. At Trevor, who genuinely seemed to believe he deserved this. Congratulations, I said finally. I hope you know what you're getting into. I walked out before anyone could respond. Behind me I heard my mother call my name, but I kept walking. Down the hallway lined with photos of the restaurant through the decades. My grandfather standing proudly in front of the original location in 1962. My father as a young man learning the business. Me at age 19 grinning on my first day of work. Trevor did not appear in any of them until a single photo from last Christmas. That night I sat in my small apartment above a bookstore and looked at my life with brutal honesty. 15 years at Castellanos. 15 years of 70-hour weeks. Holidays spent in the kitchen while other people celebrated with their families. Relationships that withered because I was always working. A culinary degree I earned while working full-time taking classes at night. I had sacrificed everything for a restaurant that would never be mine. My phone buzzed with texts. Trevor saying we should talk. My mother saying I was being dramatic. My father saying nothing at all, which was somehow worse. I turned off my phone and opened my laptop. For the first time in 15 years I started thinking about what I wanted instead of what the restaurant needed. The next morning I arrived at Castellanos at precisely 9 in the morning. 2 hours later than usual. The morning prep crew looked startled to see me stroll in at a reasonable hour. "Everything okay, chef?" asked Marco, my sous chef who had been with me for 6 years. "Perfect," I replied. "Just decided to stop arriving before dawn for a change." The day proceeded normally enough. I prepped for lunch service. Trained the new line cook. Handled the usual chaos of a busy restaurant. But when 5 o'clock came and my shift was supposed to end, I did something I had never done in 15 years. I left. The evening sous chef looked shocked when I handed over command of the kitchen. I had always stayed through dinner service to handle any issues. Always been there until closing to ensure everything was perfect. Not tonight. Tonight I went home. I cooked myself dinner in my own kitchen for the first time in weeks. I read a book. I went to bed at a reasonable hour. My phone exploded with messages around 8. The gas oven had stopped working and no one knew how to coax it back to life. The evening rush was backing up. They needed me. I turned my phone on silent and kept reading. Trevor called me into his office the next morning. He had taken over my father's old space and already redecorated. The photos of our grandfather and father were gone. Replaced with his MBA diploma and some generic motivational art about synergy. He said we needed to talk about last night. He said the kitchen had struggled without me there. I pointed out that my shift ended at 5. I was not scheduled for evening service. He said I had always stayed to help. He said the restaurant depended on my flexibility. I leaned back in my chair and said, "Trevor, you are the owner now. These operational issues are yours to solve. I am just the head chef. 9 to 5 Monday through Friday. His expression shifted from confused to frustrated. He said that was not realistic. He said restaurants did not operate on bankers' hours. I agreed. I said that was why the owner needed to be prepared to handle emergencies and operational issues. I said I assumed his MBA had taught him about resource management and contingency planning. Trevor's face flushed. He said I was being difficult on purpose. I stood up. I said I was being an employee. A head chef with clearly defined responsibilities. Nothing more, nothing less. I suggested he figure out how to manage the restaurant he had been given. Over the next 2 weeks I watched the carefully orchestrated chaos I had maintained for years start to unravel. The ancient ice machine that required specific maintenance procedures broke down because Trevor did not know about the monthly cleaning protocol I had established. A shipment from our seafood supplier was rejected because Trevor had not realized you needed to inspect each delivery personally to ensure quality. The health inspector showed up for a surprise visit and found violations in the storage area because no one had been doing my usual evening walkthroughs. My father called me in a panic about the health inspector. He said we had never failed an inspection in 40 years. He said I needed to fix this. I said that sounded like an owner's responsibility. I said Trevor was welcome to ask me questions during business hours and I would help where I could. But I was no longer available for emergencies outside my scheduled shifts. My father said I was punishing the family. I said I was simply doing my job. The job they had made clear was all I would ever be trusted to do. The real disaster came 3 weeks after the succession announcement. Trevor, in his infinite business school wisdom, had decided to renegotiate our contracts with several key suppliers. He thought he could leverage better pricing using tactics from his consulting days. What he did not understand was that these relationships were built on 15 years of trust and personal connections. Our produce supplier who gave us first pick of seasonal vegetables because I had helped his daughter get a culinary scholarship. Our butcher who saved us premium cuts because my grandfather had helped him start his business decades ago. Our wine distributor who gave us access to limited allocations because I had spent years learning about wine to better pair with our menu. Trevor treated them all like vendor relationships to be optimized. He sent form emails demanding price reductions. He threatened to take our business elsewhere. He acted like every transaction was adversarial. Within a week 2 suppliers dropped us entirely. 3 others put us on standard pricing, which meant significant cost increases. Our wine distributor stopped offering us special allocations. I watched this unfold with detached interest. When Trevor came to me asking why our costs were suddenly skyrocketing, I explained the history of each relationship and what he had destroyed. I offered no suggestions on how to repair the damage. That was his problem now. The breaking point came 4 weeks after the succession announcement. It was a Friday night. Trevor had planned a special tasting menu to attract food critics and social media influencers. His big debut as the new face of Castellanos. I worked my regular shift that day. Prepped everything that needed to be ready. Left detailed notes for the evening team. And at 5 o'clock I clocked out and went home. My phone started ringing at 6. I silenced it. By 7 I had 15 missed calls. By 8 Trevor was texting that it was an emergency and he needed me. I finally responded around 9. I said I was not scheduled to work that evening. I said I hoped the tasting menu went well. The next morning I arrived to find my father and Trevor waiting in the kitchen. The tasting menu had been a disaster. The evening sous chef had been overwhelmed. 2 critics had walked out after waiting too long for food. An influencer with 500,000 followers had posted about the disappointing experience. The damage to our reputation was significant. My father said I should have been there. He said I knew this was an important night. I said I knew it was Trevor's important night. His big vision for the restaurant's future. I asked how my presence would have supported that vision. Trevor said I was sabotaging him deliberately. He said I was jealous and petty. I looked at my brother. Really looked at him. The golden child who had always gotten everything he wanted. Who had been told his entire life that his MBA made him qualified to run a business he did not understand. Who thought leadership was about authority rather than competence. I said I was not sabotaging anything. I said I was simply an employee doing my job. If the restaurant could not function without me working unpaid overtime and covering for every operational gap, then perhaps the new owner needed to reconsider his business model. My father's face went red. He said after everything they had done for me, this was how I repaid them. I asked what exactly they had done for me. Given me a job at minimum wage for 15 years while I built their business? Taught me that loyalty and sacrifice meant nothing when it came to succession? Shown me that my work was valuable enough to depend on but not valuable enough to reward with ownership? My mother appeared in the doorway. She looked tired and older than I remembered. She said we were a family. She said family did not abandon each other. I said gently that I had not abandoned anyone. They had made it clear what my place in this family was. I was the workhorse. The reliable one who would keep working herself to death while Trevor got the glory. I was done accepting that role. Trevor said fine, if that was how I felt maybe I should find another job. His voice shook with anger. I pulled an envelope from my pocket and placed it on the counter. My official letter of resignation effective in 2 weeks. The silence that followed was absolute. My father said I could not be serious. The restaurant needed me. The menu was mine. The kitchen staff was loyal to me. The reputation we had built was based on my cooking. I said he should have thought of that before giving the restaurant to someone who could not tell the difference between a Bruno Eyes and a chiffonade. Trevor said I was being dramatic. He said they could replace me. He said any competent chef could follow the recipes I had developed. I smiled. I said he was welcome to try. I said he might be surprised to learn how many of those recipes existed only in my head. How many techniques I had developed through years of trial and error. How many of the staff were staying only because of their loyalty to me. My mother started crying. She begged me not to do this. She said we could work something out. They could give me partial ownership. Make me a partner. I shook my head. I said 6 weeks ago that might have meant something. Now it was just a desperate attempt to keep their free labor from walking away. Now it was too late. My 2 weeks' notice was the longest 2 weeks of my life. I came in